The system took on Steve Macklin, Eric Young, and Jonathan Gresham. We will hear from Jordan Grace with this feud between Jordan Grace and Tessa Blanchard heating up. Savannah Evans was in action, and Joe Hendry teamed with Rhino to take on the Nemeth brothers. This is your TNA Impact Review. What is up, guys? Welcome back to the Wrasslin for Life Network, and welcome back to another edition of the TNA Impact Review. And obviously, we had another new episode of TNA Impact as we charge towards the next pay-per-view, which is Genesis, coming up January 19th. And I did feel like this episode was more of a filler episode towards Genesis. It had some great moments, but let's talk about it. After a backstage altercation last week, the system took on Steve Macklin, Jonathan Gresham, and Eric Young. And I wasn't really too into this match. I didn't find the match boring, but I don't think I was invested into it. A lot has not been invested in this story between these two teams, so maybe that's why I wasn't really invested in the six-man tag team match. But it happened, and it opened up TNA Impact, and the match was okay at best. But Steve Macklin, Eric Young, and Jonathan Gresham did pick up the victory. And after this match, they were attacked with chairs by the system. So it seems like we are continuing with this story, but I really want to see Steve Macklin in that world championship picture. And I know it's kind of crowded right now, but we got to get Steve Macklin back to that world championship. He had a decent run in 2023. We need to get back to him winning and actually having a really lengthy run with that TNA World Championship. So hopefully that happens soon. But this match went down with Steve Macklin, Jonathan Gresham, and Eric Young picking up the victory. Savannah Evans is back in action on this week's episode of TNA Impact. And before the match started, she was confronted by Xia Brookside. And Xia Brookside was explaining that she was taken out by Savannah Evans. She was injured at Turning Point by Savannah Evans, but she knows someone who is able to compete tonight, and that was Lei Ying Lee. And Lei Ying Lee was out of action because of Savannah Evans too. So she was out for revenge. She wanted to get her hands on Savannah Evans. And what a nice match this was between Savannah Evans and Lei Ying Lee, who picked up the victory. Now, I don't know who needed the victory more here. Savannah Evans, they really are trying to build her up as a powerhouse, and I feel like 2025 might be potentially the year for Savannah Evans, but you were in a catch-22 here because I think Savannah needed the win, but I also feel like since Lei Ying Lee is new to TNA, she couldn't afford a loss either. So they went with Lei Ying to actually pick up the victory, but I think good things are coming for Savannah Evans and Lei Ying in 2025 as we kind of round out this knockouts division. But this was a pretty solid match between the two. Savannah Evans obviously needs some work in that ring, but this was not a bad match at all. And hopefully they continue to build Savannah Evans up a little bit more. Did Mike Santana run the gauntlet this week on TNA Impact? Mike Santana had to take on every member of the Northern Armory in a gauntlet match. Now, technically, Mike Santana did beat every member, but it wasn't on Mike Santana's terms. He took out Judas Icarus, he took out Travis Williams, but when it came to Josh Alexander, that particular part of the match, the other two members of the Northern Armory attacked Mike Santana, and it was a disqualification. So Mike Santana basically won by disqualification against Josh Alexander, but that's not how Mike Santana wants to do things. So at Genesis, it is set, it is official. Josh Alexander will take home Mike Santana one-on-one in some singles competition. And I've been preaching it almost every week during these TNA reviews that Mike Santana has been on a roll since he returned to TNA at Rebellion in 2024. He's taken out every member of the system. He's on his warpath of taking out every member of the Northern Armory. Mike Santana is great on the mic. Mike Santana is great in the ring. Mike Santana deserves the TNA World Championship. And in 2025, Mike Santana will win the TNA World Championship. But I'm excited for this match at Genesis. Josh Alexander, Mike Santana will tear the house down as Josh Alexander makes his exit from TNA Wrestling as he wants to explore free agency. Mike Santana becoming one of the top superstars in TNA Wrestling. It's going down at Genesis. Mike Santana versus Josh Alexander. Raven returned to TNA Impact this week in a backstage segment with Rosemary, as Rosemary is looking to become the new TNA Knockouts World Champion. And Raven questioned if Rosemary has what it takes to win that title again. Rosemary is actually kind of in Masha's head a little bit. She's ready. She's ready for that match. She's ready to win the TNA Knockouts World title, but can she do it at Genesis? With Raven back there questioning if she can actually take the title. So, guess what he decided to do? He put it in her head to have a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match at Genesis. So, it's going down. It's going down at Genesis. Rosemary challenging Masha to the Knockouts title in a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match. That's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I love what they've been doing with Rosemary. Masha is the new standard bearer for the Knockouts division since dethroning Jordan Grace at Bound for Glory. So these two collide at Genesis, and I'm sure it's going to be a great match. The best match of the week on this week's episode of TNA Impact was the Rascals versus the Good Hands. Every time the Rascals are in that ring together, they perform and they perform well. The Good Hands, a really solid tag team that I hope gets focused more on in 2025. The Rascals did pick up the victory as they head into their big tag team title match at Genesis against the Hardys for the World Tag Team Championships. This is a dream match for both teams, but this match with the Good Hands, you have to see it. You have to go out of your way to see it. I'm sure it's on YouTube. I know it's on the TNA Plus app. But yeah, this match was a good match won by the Rascals. They gained that momentum heading into Genesis. I'm looking forward to the Genesis match. I'm looking forward to see if the Rascals can really take the titles away from the Hardys, or are the Hardys going to clutch on to those titles just a little bit longer? You got to watch Genesis to find out, but it's going down. The Hardys versus the Rascals for the World Tag Team Championships at Genesis. There was a lot of discourse over the past couple of weeks of TNA retiring the X Division Championship. And I feel like that came from dirt sheets and so-called reporters. This week on TNA Impact, we found out what is actually happening with the X Division Championship. And it was very, very clear from Moose what is happening with the X Division Championship. And honestly, I'm kind of confused of how the so-called reporters and dirt sheets bent this into what they thought was going to happen, and that was the retirement of the X Division Championship. What we clearly heard from Moose is he is debuting a new X Division Championship at Genesis. I'm excited for it. I think it's going to be a custom title that's fit for Moose. And then once Moose loses the X Division Championship, they will return back to the current design of the X Division Championship. But he said all that, and then Andrew Everett came out and he said that Moose disrespected the X Division. Moose hit him with a boot. Impromptu match, impromptu X Division Championship match with Moose winning. So we go on to Genesis with Moose defending the title against Ace Austin, where he debuts the new X Division Championship, which I believe is going to be a custom belt just made for Moose. I'm excited for Genesis. I've said this throughout this entire episode. Genesis is cooking up some great matches, but it's going down. X Division Championship, Ace Austin versus Moose. We heard from Jordan Grace. Jordan Grace is angry about what's going on between her and Tessa Blanchard. She came out to the ring, she grabbed a mic, and she basically said, "You should be scared that I have a mic right now, but I'm nothing like you. I am nothing like you." Basically hinting like, I got some dirt on you. I got some real good dirt on you that I could spill right now in front of all of the TNA fans in Center Stage in Atlanta, but I'm not going to do it. Jordan Gray said, I'm not going to do it. But what I am going to do is give you the opportunity to come out here and fight me woman to woman. Because if you really believe that this knockouts division is your knockouts division, you're going to have to take it from me. You're going to have to face me. And guess what? Tessa Blanchard ran out, attacked Jordan Grace. They went back and forth. The security came out, pulled both of them apart. Jordan Grace did this cool like move to jump over the security guards to get back to Tessa Blanchard, and they brought some more, but it's official. Santino Marella made it official at Impact. It's going down. Tessa Blanchard, Jordan Grace at Genesis, and it's going to be a phenomenal match. Again, I know Tessa Blanchard has a checkered history, a checkered past. Everybody has a checkered past. Let's just be honest. But so far, since her return to TNA, she's been doing some pretty good things with attacking Jordan Grace, kind of getting her name out there. Last week on TNA Impact, before this week's episode, she dragged Jordan Grace out of center stage. So they have built this feud very nicely in just a matter of weeks. I'm excited for the match. Like I said, it's going down. Genesis, Jordan Grace versus Tessa Blanchard. We are at the main event of this week's episode of TNA Impact. And like I said, this week's episode felt more of a filler episode. There were some great moments, but then there were just some moments that I wasn't really into. And the main event is kind of one of them. It was Joe Hendry teaming with Rhino to take on Ryan and Nick Nemeth. And this match was okay at best. I do know they're kind of pushing the story with Nick and Joe as they challenge each other, or as Joe challenges Nick for the TNA World Championship at Genesis, but I just wasn't really into this match. I found the match a little boring and dull, and I know Rhino is leaving, so this was kind of Rhino's last match in TNA wrestling as well. But Rhino and Joe Hendry won. They have the upper hand, or Joe Hendry has the upper hand as he goes into Genesis to face Nick Nemeth for the TNA World Championship, which I do believe he's going to win that night. I hope. I do believe and I hope, but I don't know, because we still got Frankie Kazarian waiting back there to call his shot anytime he wants. But it's going down at Genesis. Joe Hendry, Nick Nemeth, TNA World Championship. And I think that's going to be a great match. I think it'll be miles over their Bound for Glory match. I'm excited for it. I'm excited for the entire card at Genesis. We have come to the end of the TNA Impact review this week, but before we leave, before I let you guys go to that, I will go over some of the matches that are going down at Genesis, the entire card so far that's going down at Genesis. So here we go. The TNA Knockouts World Tag Team Championships will be on the line. Spitfire will be defending against Ash and Heather by Elegance, and next week on TNA Impact, we will have a launch party for those tag team championships by Elegance, because it's a pre-launch party and that's what's going to happen. They're having the celebration of winning the titles before they actually win the titles. The X Division Championship will be on the line, where Moose will introduce a new X Division Championship. It will be Moose versus Ace Austin. Josh Alexander will be in singles competition taking on Mike Santana. The TNA World Tag Team Championships will be on the line. Matt and Jeff Hardy will be taking on the Rascals. We got the TNA Knockouts World Championship on the line, and a Clockwork Orange House of Fun match between Masha Slamovich and Rosemary. Jordan Grace will be taking on Tessa Blanchard. And finally, the TNA World Championship will be on the line. Nick Nemeth will be facing Joe Hendry. That is the current Genesis card. I thank you for watching the TNA Impact review this week on YouTube. If you're listening on any of the podcasting platforms, I thank you as well. I will see you next week as we cover more TNA Impact and maybe a little bit of Genesis. I don't know. We'll see. But thank you for watching again. I will see you in the next one.